Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to get your opinions on my Panda palette for next year. This year my suggestions are slightly different than they have been the last couple of years, because normally I tend to go for just a proper eyeshadow palette that I'm trying to pan. This time around I know that next year I'll still have about 3-4 shades left, at least partly. From things that I've been working on this year. I'm always rolling my palettes into the next year, so I'm trying to figure out how to not overwhelm myself by just adding more and more palettes and not managing to finish them up completely by the end of the year. So let's take a look at that. The other side of it is that I want to probably focus a little bit more on Pando's eyeshadows, since, as you guys may have seen, I've rolled in a lot of eyeshadows recently through my sister gifting me partly back the makeup that I've once kind of put over to her, or things that she has bought in the past herself. So video here for everything that has rolled in recently into my collection. There's so many eyeshadows now in comparison to what I had before that I want to make sure I get more use out of it. Like when I only had about 10 eyeshadow palettes, I was fine with having a Panda palette and focusing a little bit, like as much as I could as well, on my Panda's eyeshadows. But I think next year will be a lot of Panda's eyeshadows focus as well. So I don't want to overwhelm myself too much with a big palette being added on top of what I'm trying to do here. A lot of talking, let's actually look at the products that I'm thinking about. First of all, something that I haven't done before. This clearly is a big palette, so not an eyeshadow palette though. This is the blush palette that I still had in my childhood bedroom and kind of forgot about. So something that I am considering to keep this project interesting for you guys to watch as well is try and pan as much as I can of this blush palette as well, apart from just working on eyeshadows. So that might be something I can do to make sure that there definitely is still movement happening while I'm also trying to focus a bit more on my Panda's eyeshadows. Pretty sure I will not be able to finish off all of these in a year's time, so this might be a 2-year project or something. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 28 blushes in here. As you can see, I finished 2 off already and 1 I have major pan on. So let's say there's 25 pretty much full-size blushes left in here, which would likely take me about 2 years to get through. But I don't even know if I can, for example, like finish off 1 pan in about a month. That seems a bit overly excited, but I think it could be interesting to work with this. There is a good mix of like more cool toned blushes and then some like warmer tones at the bottom here as well, so that could get me through the year quite nicely as well, probably. Then when it comes to eyeshadows, as I said, I might not go for a full palette, so I've kind of been looking at, okay, what other options do I have if I don't want to do a full-on palette? Because you guys have seen some of my suggestions over the last years. I definitely have a palette that I would want to get to at some point as well. The NYX one that has shown up in a few of them. But I think it might be a bit too much to try and get through next year. So one that I just had in my hand, so you already saw it. This is my Catrice The Seasons Must Have. Also, this one has been in pretty much every time, like I've asked you guys, what do you think? The last few years, I wasn't sure whether it would be too much of the same color, but thinking that I want to focus a lot of my Panda's eyeshadows, I think it might be really nice to have like only 4 shades added that I can then focus on. Instead of trying to focus on 10 different shades, I can just almost always use this as my transition shade, and this will definitely be a highlight shade for me as well. Let me open it so it's not as reflective. So there's potential there. In the meantime, I've hit pan on this shade as well. There was already pan in here, I believe, and this is in my Panda's eyeshadows at the moment, so slight spoiler maybe, but I haven't hit pan yet, so not too much of a spoiler. I'm focusing really hard on trying to see if I can still get pan on this one in the next week or so before I have to film my update for the Panda's eyeshadows finale for me this year. There definitely is a good dip in there, so maybe. So I might be starting this one out with 3 pans already. So the bigger pans are both 2.5 grams of product, which is significant enough. And then the smaller ones are 1.5. But there is a little bit of everything. I've got a highlight shade, a transition shade, a transition / possible lid shade, and a darkening up shade. So depending on what I'm missing or something in my Pentos eyeshadows like palette at the moment, I think I should be able to like integrate at least 1 or 2 of these shades in a lot of the looks that I'll be doing, so I might be able to get through all of these. Then 2 other quads that I have as well. I don't have too many quads, so there's not that much potential for me to pick from, but these are 2 Catrice quads from the Revoltaire limited edition line. I've got one with greens, like greeny type of shades, like this is kind of an army green, a very bright green, which could be really interesting. We've got a grayish shade, and then this one, if I remember correctly, has a slightly different texture and was kind of meant as a eyeliner, but I'll have to play around with that. It's like the only matte shade in the palette as well. The rest has a slight shimmer to it, but I still question like how much of that will actually transfer on the eyelid. But this is a like slightly more colorful, but at the same time like muted enough to be able to integrate with a lot of things. The green is just a nice pop of color, so there's always some pop of color, I guess. And the other shades are different enough as well from the shades that are still left in my Pentos palettes, probably at the end of the year. If you want to see how far I did already get with my Pentos palette, I'll link that up here as well, so you can see what would potentially be accompanying whatever I pick here. So yeah, the green one. And then as another option, this is one that I have already used a bit more, is this one from that same limited edition, just the other palette. We've got a really like simple lid shade that I already have a bit of a dip in. This shade is the only one I'm not 100% sure about though, because it's a medium brown, and as you guys know, there is that medium brown already in my Pentos palette that I've still got a lot of work to do on. This is a matte, but if I remember correctly, again, this is an eyeliner type of shade, so the texture might be different, more dry. So I'll have to figure out if it is even workable on the lid. And then another like just nice pop of color, but this is a nice warm shade, and you guys know I do like my warm shades as well, as much as I don't always get to work on them. So those are my quads. Then another one that is a possibility, but I think a little bit less than some of these other ones. This is a Rituals Duo, which would be a nice like mini Pentos palette alongside the other things that I'm still trying to finish off, possibly. It's definitely like cooler tones. It's like similar enough, I guess, to what I have left in this one. But here I would have some, like to me, warmer tones to work with as well. And this would just be cool tones. These are both 2.5 grams. This is 5 grams in total. So these two, even though they look smaller, have the same amount of product as the gray and the like highlighty shade in here. I have used this one a little bit already, so I know the colors are nice enough. Like they're probably easy enough to integrate as well, but it's just 2 big eyeshadows that I would be working on them. And then lastly, and this might go alongside something that you guys think of, I was thinking I could throw in a single one way or another as well, probably in combination with something else, because just a single, it's not really a Pentos palette, but yeah, like this is a single that you guys know, like has been in multiple projects already. I never really got to it because my Pentos palette and Pentos eyeshadows are always my focus. So maybe if this is part of my Pentos palette, I'll be more likely to actually use it. There's plenty of product in here. It doesn't say on here how much grams there is, but kind of holding this next to these ones. Of course, it's hard to see whether it's just as deep as well, but I'd say that this is about 3 or 4 grams of product, possibly. It's pretty much the size of a blush, if you look at it like that. So yeah, that is a possible thing to roll in with something else. So if you guys have any ideas on how to combine certain things or how to use any of these, or even like if you guys remember any other palettes that I have and you're like, you know what, it's all nice that you're showing me quads, but I love to see a palette, suggest one of those as well. That's completely fine. I really want to know what you guys would like to watch as well, because of course I'm making these videos for you guys, not so much for myself. I could pan just by myself and not put it online. Why do we even do these things, you know? So yeah, that is it. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts, because it's like I'm not used to not having a full palette to work on. So this is kind of like something I'm trying to get used to, but over the last month I started thinking about this more, And I think that this could work, especially considering I've still got a few shades left that I need to work on, and I could possibly roll out like a trio and a palette and a quad by the end of next year then. Let's see. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Would love to hear you guys' opinions. If you hate the ideas that I've given you, let me know as well, so I can maybe even do a new one. Yeah, let me know. I'll see you in one of the next videos anyway. Bye bye.